New body cam footage was released earlier today showing Brian Laundrie's parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, refusing to help police just days after Gabby Petito, the fiance of Brian Laundrie, was reported missing.
So you don't have any issue with us taking the van?
If that's what you're saying, you got to do. You got to do.
Yeah,
but right now, I'm not speaking to anymore.
You're without our attorney.
Okay.
I can move the car for you.
You don't find that odd that you guys really?
Good night.
Okay.
Don't knock on my door anymore.
Okay. Are you going to move the car?
I'll move it.
Okay.
Don't knock on my door again. I mean, is this surprising? Hello, and welcome to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are not law enforcement, we are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this new body cam footage that was released earlier today showing Brian Laundrie's parents, as we just saw from that itty bitty clip I just played for y'all, refusing to help police after Gabby Petito was reported a missing person. Now, back in February, the Petito family actually reached a deal with the Laundrie family, saying, quote, after a long day of mediation, a confidential resolution has been reached between the parents of Gabby Petito, the parents of Brian Laundrie, and attorney Stephen Bertolino, to which all parties reluctantly agreed in order to avoid further legal expenses and prolonged personal conflict, because it did get very heated for a while. If you've been following this case, you know. Petito's family said in a statement released by their attorney, our hope is to close this chapter of our lives to allow us to move on and continue to honor the legacy of our beautiful daughter, Gabby. And they, of course, have set up the Gabby Petito Foundation, which you can go and place a donation to. It is a foundation that's been set up to help DV victims get the help that they need and to let them know that they have these resources available before something like this occurs again. I mean, the whole thing, this case is so sad. I remember when it started to break news, when everybody was on the manhunt looking for first Gabby, and then they found Gabby's remains, and then we were looking for Brian Laundrie because he wouldn't come out of the house, and then they found his remains, and it just felt like this was a story where we never really got closure. And I can only imagine how her family feels, because at the end of the day, it's like, who else can you really point the finger at? How else can you really seek justice for Gabby? And I think it's amazing that they set up this foundation in her name, and that they're just continuing to advocate for her and help other victims of DV as well too. Now, even though the Petito family has reached an agreement and will ultimately avoid a civil trial against the Laundries, they still have this wrongful death suit against the Moab City Police very much still pending. Now, this suit was actually filed back in November of 2022, but it's since been amended as of March of this year. The family of Gabby Petito filed a second amended complaint in a wrongful death lawsuit against the Moab City Police Department. Their attorney, Brian Stewart, with Parker and McConkey, saying, we're in the beginning. This is a new amended complaint, and now the Moab City Police Department will have the opportunity to answer and begin the discovery process. The Petito family is anxious to get that process moving so that they can have their day in court and find the accountability. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that anybody is really seeking. So the Petito family are seeking $50 million in damages. Like I said, it was originally filed on behalf of the family back in November of 2022, outlining the interaction police had with Petito and Brian Laundrie, that body cam footage that we all had seen. And again, essentially how this all could have been very, very much avoided. Now, that was as of March, which was nearly 6 months ago. There hasn't really been a whole lot of noise since then, aside from the fact that the Fed started to release some of the evidence that they had collected, the creepy, weird, dark, and twisted artwork that Brian Laundrie was drawing up, his diary entries talking about his self-unaliving ideations. giving us a real deep inside look into his dark and twisted mind, which is not only disturbing, but very sad. And of course, the letter that Gabby had written to Brian Laundrie that we don't know if she ever gave to him and it was in his possession, or if it was something that she was using more as a therapeutic exercise to express how she was feeling in her relationship during this time in the months leading up to them even taking this trip. So those are the only updates in regards to that. So I'm very curious as to why this body cam footage was released now, unless the feds are cooking up something that we don't know about, and this is just leading to something in the weeks and months ahead. I don't know. What say you? So I just want to pause real quick. For a second. So this is the van. This is Gabby's van. Like, you have to be some kind of calculated, cold-hearted, cold-blooded unaliver to do something like that. To not only unalive the woman that you're allegedly so in love with to the point where you're afraid that she's going to leave you at any moment or time, that you take the van that you guys were driving in that's registered under her name and then use her money that she earned because he's a loser and didn't have a job. And Gabby essentially took care of the both of him like he was a freaking child. And he takes the car and drives it back to who? His mommy and daddy's house. And I'm sorry, I know that there's a lot of people who might feel a little bit of sympathy towards Brian in regards to his mental health. I have no doubt that he was struggling really, really hard with his mental health. But that being said, there is a level of cold bloodedness and, dare I say, sociopathicness that goes into doing the things that he did following the unaliving of his fiance.
Northport Police Department.
Yes.
How you doing, sir? I apologize for bothering you. I have the detective on the phone.
I'm not talking to anybody.
You don't want to talk to us?
No.
Okay, she's on the phone. You don't want to talk to her now?
No.
Okay, it's when was the last time that you saw Brian and Gabriel?
So I know a lot of people are probably going to come for this police officer, and I just want to put out this disclaimer. At this point, this is very, very early on into this investigation. Gabby was literally just reported missing. The Northport police really didn't have anything to do with at least the missing persons aspect of this case, aside from the fact that, well, Brian Laundrie was at home. He was refusing to speak. The family was refusing to speak. I mean, they didn't even really leave the house in the days following after the missing persons report was filed. And as he stated, this officer stated on his body cam, he was literally on the phone with the police detective from Suffolk County on Long Island, where I'm also from, whoop whoop, who's just simply asking, hey, when was the last time you saw Gabby? Considering the fact that not only one, she's engaged to your son, who's allegedly just hanging out in the house, refusing to speak to anybody, which was his right, but still extremely sus. Doesn't come off as somebody who's in the least bit concerned with the woman that he allegedly loves. And not to mention, she lived there with him too. So it's not only just a matter of, hey, this is my son's girlfriend. I don't really know a lot about her. It's no, she lives in this home when they were not traveling. They lived together in our home. We knew Gabby. So wouldn't you be a little bit, I don't know, more open in saying, at least at the very least, hey, yeah, I mean, we haven't seen her. He just came home a couple of days ago. We don't know what's going on. If there's any information that we can give to you, we certainly will. But clearly, they're being evasive on purpose because they are trying to protect, I believe, their son and probably their own skin too, from what he allegedly confessed to them.
Well, Brian is here.
Brian is here,
Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say.
and that's all that you're saying.
Yeah, we have an attorney. They've been calling, I don't know, That's all I want to say. I don't know why so many attorneys are aware of
Okay.
the calling, so well, I can give you his number.
Whose number? The attorney's number?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like that, please, so I can give it to the detective. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is literally like, I have no idea what's going on. I got this call from this police detective in a county maybe he's never even heard of back on Long Island. So, and they are just being anything but forthcoming when they damn well knew exactly what their son had done. And it's so eerie to see that van in the background.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And just to let the detective know, is Gabriel here? Or?
No.
She's not here. Okay.
I felt was here last night.
Yeah. Okay. So is this her vehicle? Her van?
It's both of them.
Is both of them? Okay.
But
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hello. Yeah. Yes. And it's all on my body cam. Okay. All right. I'm gonna notify. They said that Gabriel's not here. That's all they're saying. That his son is here, but Gabriel's not, and they're not talking. And then he said that they're tired of being harassed or being called. That by the family. Okay, and his name is Steven Bertolino. That's the attorney's number, and his office number. And his cell phone is. I'm gonna. Is there anything on my part that I can do to assist you? I mean, do you need me to notify my detective bureau? Yeah. Yes. Okay.
What information I have here, her parents last physically heard from her on August 27th, and they were supposedly out in Wyoming. His sister now just told me another story about that he left her out there and flew home, and yet you're seeing the van in their driveway, and they won't tell you where she is.
Yeah, and I asked him right now in front of you who does that van belong to, and he says both of them.
Yeah, it's registered to her, and her family feels that it's hers. So I don't know how it works out there. And her phone's been off now for 10 days, and there's been no contact with her whatsoever.
If Brian just left Gabby for whatever reason, what they got into a fight, yada yada, he flies home, then how did her van end up back at his parents' house? Now, like I said earlier, that Gabby lived with Brian and Brian's parents' home, so it wouldn't be unusual that her vehicle would be there necessarily. But the fact that they're being so evasive to say that Gabby's not, we don't know anything. We're not going to talk about it. Brian's here, but we don't know about Gabby. We're not saying anything about Gabby is very bizarre, because how can both things be true at the same time unless he flew back to Wyoming to get the van and then drove it back? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So that was the statement that his sister, Cassie Laundrie, had given to the Suffolk County police detective.
And I asked him right now in front of you who does that van belong to, and he says both of them.
Yeah, it's registered to her, and her family feels that it's hers. So I don't know how it works out there. And her phone's been off now for 10 days, and there's been no contact with her whatsoever. So
I would have been curious too. So if the car was registered under Gabby's name, was Brian on her insurance policy? Was he added as a driver where he could be legally driving the car? Because otherwise, wouldn't it could be technically considered a stolen vehicle at that point because it didn't belong to her.
but I don't know if that van's a crime scene. I don't. How did it return there? If he supposedly flew home, there's definitely some issues going on.
Okay, you have the tag
if
on
you
the.
could put them in touch with me.
You have the tag on
Maybe
the.
notify a supervisor too. I don't know how it works.
Yes,
for
I
you guys
will.
out there.
I'll definitely. I'll notify supervisor on this. The tag is Queen Frank Tom Golf 03.
Yeah, that's what I have on my missing person report, because they were supposedly on this road trip in that van.
Police department.
So now it skips to the sergeant of the Northport Police. I don't know if this initial officer, if he contacted his sergeant or supervisor following that phone call. I imagine he did, because according to the Suffolk County Police detective, and usually I'm not going to give a whole lot of props on their end, but they did do good in terms of this particular case, I believe. Suggesting, yeah, something doesn't smell right here. Something's not quite adding up. There's things that need to be for sure answered. So, yeah, if you could hook me up and help me out with your supervisor and or sergeant, that would be great.
Is it Chris? Chris, this is Sergeant Selzer with the police department.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I hate to bother you. I know you've already said you don't want to speak or don't want to help us. I'm trying to figure out something for parents. You guys as parents, all they want is their daughter to know that she's safe. So I don't know where it all started before. I don't know what's transpired. I don't know anything about that. I'm here to know if you guys know anything. It would let the parents at ease and go from there.
Well, we don't know anything.
Okay.
That's all.
I mean, anything that you guys would be able to give them is any type of help. Last time your son saw her, anything like that.
No,
Am I able to talk to your son? The other officer said,
he's not going to talk to anybody.
Okay.
We're not going to talk to anybody.
okay. I mean, I'm gonna lay it out for you if you want. The New York detectives are a little pissed, and they want me to do a whole bunch of things that I'm trying to
Well,
avoid.
then you have to do what you got to do, and we're not going to. That's that.
Okay. I mean,
What, like, a dumb answer, like, oh, you do what you gotta do. It's like, do you not understand the gravity of this situation and just the lack of respect for Gabby's life and the respect for her parents? You could tell there's definitely some level of contention. Now, I don't know the Petito family's relationship to the Laundries prior to all of this unraveling. From what I've read and what I've heard, at least from the Petito family, that they didn't necessarily see any warning signs in Brian. He always seemed to be on his quote best behavior. Sometimes those signs are really difficult to tell, especially when somebody is a class A manipulator. I mean, look at people like Ted Bundy, right? So, and not to give Brian Laundrie that much credit, I think overall he was just a dirtbag loser kid who just had some stuff going on in his head that he for sure needed help with, but he used that as a crutch to excuse himself into unaliving someone who was just trying to help him and to love him and care about him. But he was too busy self loathing. But I digress. And you can tell where that behavior was learned from, just from the energy that they give. They don't care. They don't want to give any kind of information. And I understand some people are going to make the argument of, well, they're just doing what their attorney said to do. And I get that. I mean, I believe that most people in any investigation, getting a attorney right off the bat isn't necessarily a sign of guilt per se, just because we've seen this happen all the time. We even with the Karen Reed case, right, when she was googling DUI attorneys to help her because she got that phone call from Mikey Chip Proctor, essentially saying, "Hey, I'm coming for you, right? I'm about to cuff you." And I don't always see that as a sign of guilt. I think everybody has a right to it, and it doesn't mean anything, and I believe you should. I know I would do that in that situation, but to not be forthcoming at all and be highly evasive and almost annoyed at the situation that the police are just trying to help concerned parents who are in a completely different state looking for their 22-year-old daughter. I mean, you could be a little bit more sympathetic, even if you are trying to protect your son. Take a page out of Wade Wilson's biological father's book, right? I mean, that's somebody, look at that situation where you have a biological father who is essentially reconnecting with his son after finding out all these disgusting things that he did to these poor women. Take a page out of his book. There's somebody who can truthfully and honestly say, I think he deserves the exact punishment that he's going to get. He's evil. He deserves it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to love him because he's my son, but I understand the gravity of what he did and there needs to be justice. And I think those two things can be very much true. But this is my issue with these parents. This is the issue with Roberta and Christopher Laundrie. And this is the thing that's frustrated me for years with this family, is the fact that they just don't care. They don't care. And the fact that Gabby lived in your home, was engaged to your son. It wasn't like she was just some random girl that you had no connection to. This was somebody that you grew to know, that your son essentially grew up with, high school sweethearts, essentially. And you don't care, you don't wanna help her poor parents find her? Even if you know, yes, it's going to hurt your son, even if you know the truth. There has to be a point where morality overrides protecting a criminal, protecting somebody and excusing them from doing one of the most heinous things that any human can do to another. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Do I think that Brian Laundrie should have gotten some kind of mental health care? Absolutely. But I also think the situation could have been 100% avoided, and her parents could have gotten closure a lot sooner. And who knows? Maybe Brian Laundrie would have been prosecuted in a court of law, and there would have been some justice for Gabby Petito.
As a parent, you wouldn't want to know where it happened with
I
your.
understand what you're saying. Thank you.
I mean,
No, we're not gonna.
it makes it very odd, don't you think? From my point of view,
Well,
Chris.
right. For now, you couldn't call our attorney and give your phone number.
I don't have your attorney, and an attorney's not going to answer at 10,
Well, I
11
don't know,
o'clock at
but
night.
I'm not speaking to anybody.
Yeah, we're not comfortable.
I have to say, I do love this sergeant right now. I don't know how involved he was in the days following this, but I just love how he's just hitting them with the obvious questions of like, but wouldn't you want the same respect and want to know the same answers as her family does if your son was missing? Wouldn't you want us to do the same thing, asking the same people? But again, it's like you're not fazed. This is evil. This is where evil breeds. The lack of empathy. And you have to wonder, it's like, what actually went down in this home?
Not
Looks
an
like
attorney.
anybody-
So that's that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the van is only registered to her. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you, the
Okay.
title on the state of Florida is it's only hers.
Okay.
So it's not supposed to be here.
Okay,
So I'm going to take a tow truck and get it. Is a car in the way?
that's my car. I can move it.
I mean, so you don't have any issue with us taking the van?
If that's what you're saying, you got to do. You got to do.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm not speaking to anyone.
Yeah, without our attorney.
Okay.
I can move the car for you.
You don't find that odd that you guys
Good
really?
night. Good night.
Okay.
Don't knock on my door anymore.
Okay. Are you going to move the car?
I'll move it.
Okay.
And there you have it. I mean, I do have to say, I love that. Like, you don't think it's odd? You don't think it's weird that her van is here? The vehicle that is registered in her name, but If she was here, if she was in the house, all you have to say is, yeah, she's right here. She's fine. She's okay. But no, just totally evasive. Oh, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. I mean, I can only imagine. And the wild thing about this case is the fact that there were so many reporters that were camped outside of the Laundrie home for days. Days and days and days. Even Dog the Bounty Hunter came banging on their doors trying to get them to come outside and answer any questions. And when you think about that case in comparison to the Karen Reed case and all the bogus witness intimidation charges that the Massachusetts State Police just love slapping on the people, it's absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild. And I only wonder if that's going to become part of an argument potentially in Turtle Boy's case, but I digress. This was shocking. I don't know what the release of this body cam footage means, if it does mean anything, if it's kind of a way for the Petito family to put some added pressure if they have something planned and that they are keeping very close to the chest and they are planning to indict this family. Maybe they are trying to gather more evidence. I have no idea. I mean, I would love to see, because if they do know, and it seems like they did, according to the lawsuit, they knew what their son had done, they should be held accountable. I'm not saying that it would have saved her life necessarily, because at that point, she was unfortunately already gone. But again, maybe Brian could have been properly prosecuted and he could have seen his day in court, and Gabby and her family could have gotten the justice that she deserves, that they deserve. But again, that's just my opinion. So as more updates about this case unfolds, I will continue to share them here on Alexa's Room. Maybe I'll even do a deep dive rewind on this case as well too. If you enjoyed today's content and you want to stay up to date with the latest news in regards to the Gabby Petito case, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss that next update from me. And make sure you hit the like button, because this is very much newsworthy news. I know it's an older case. I mean, it's so weird to say, but it's not. It's not the hot and trendy, case that's going on right now in the true crime community. I get it, but it's important. Gabby's family is still very much trying to seek justice for what happened to their daughter. So if we can continue to talk about it, maybe one day justice will be served. But until then, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.